Good evening and welcome to this faculty roundtable here at HJI. Thank you for joining us in the evening here in New York, and glad that you're spending this time with us. At HJI, we're preparing for graduation in about 9 days. It takes place on May 23rd. And this will be the 50th uh, graduation ceremony, commencement for this institution that began in 1975, as many or most of you know. So it's an important moment in our history. We're kind of looking to the past of our storied history, beginning with our founder's decision back in the early 70s, shortly after arriving in America, and projecting into the future for our next 50 years. I'm not sure I'll be here in 50 years. Maybe some of you will be. I'll try my best to be here. Uh, but one aspect of our graduation ceremony is that we will be presenting a honorary doctorate this year to Katrina Lantos Sweat. She is president of the Lantos Foundation for Human Rights and Justice. And for the past several years, since its beginning, she is and has been the co-chair of the International Religious Freedom Summit. And she co-chairs that with Ambassador Sam Brownback, who I just saw on one of the news channels earlier today, because of the US President Donald Trump being in China with President Xi Jinping. Sam Brownback, who is Katrina Lantos Sweat's co-chair, was being interviewed about religious freedom in China, and he did not speak too favorably on that point. But we're happy to have Katrina, and I think it'll be an important ceremony. So that's just a little word of introduction, and I will now move to introduce our keynote speaker, our representative of the HJI faculty for this evening's program, Dr. Drissa Kone. And the topic that he will address tonight is the role of religious leaders in addressing global conflict. This is an important part of the HJI mission for peace and public leadership, as our name indicates. And as you know, our founders have always seen the spiritual life, the religious life, and its application in all sectors of society as ultimately oriented to an ultimate goal, which can be described in many names: the kingdom of God, or the kingdom of heaven, or a world of everlasting peace. And so we're happy to have that word in our name, and happy that Dr. Kone will speak to this topic this evening. Dr. Kone is the chair of our Doctor of Ministry program, one of the four program areas here at HJI. He himself earned his Doctor of Ministry at HJI. He is the Associate Professor of Ministry and Conflict Resolution. So he teaches not only in the Doctor of Ministry program and courses related to the Doctor of Ministry, but also our Peace Studies program, which is chaired by Dr. Thomas Ward. So he's kind of dwells in both realms. You could say the more religious sphere and to some extent the sphere of international relations, et cetera, which not directly is the nature of peace studies, but in a general sense, we can say that you might see him as bridging both the spiritual and the physical world, or the religious and the political. So I'm looking forward to his presentation. I'll just conclude by saying last week I had the privilege to be with Dr. Kone at the United States uh, uh, mission, or the mission of the Côte d'Ivoire, the Ivory Coast, its mission to the United Nations. And the program that was convened there was a book launch for a book recently published by Dr. Koenig related to the Ivory Coast and the building of the nation, democratic institutions, and very much directly related to peace, and had a very sizable audience of distinguished scholars and UN personnel and Ivory Coast Ivorian diaspora. So I was able to share a few words and kind of listen as Dr. Coney spoke about his recent publication. But without further ado, I'll now turn it over. Let me give one housekeeping that Dr. Coney will speak for about 30 minutes. And after he concludes, I may interact with him for, let's say, 5 minutes or so. Just I may have a question or two to dialogue with my colleague here at HJI. And then we'll open it up to the audience. You can put comments or questions in the chat column. While I listen to Dr. Coney, I'll also keep my eye on the chat box, or at the time of Q&A, you can raise your hand, or if I see you there and I can kind of sense you'd like to say something, I may call on you by surprise and encourage you to say a few words. You're not required to, uh, but you'd be most welcome to. So uh, we now welcome Dr. Gisicone to deliver his presentation. Dr. Kone.
Thank you, Mr. President, for that kind introduction. So let me start sharing my screen. Okay, here. All right. And okay, I'll start from here. All right. So yeah, the topic, the title of my presentation is The Role of Religious Leaders in Addressing Global Conflict. So this is um, you know, the overview, but I'm not going to go into that anyway. I will present in 4 point with the introduction and conclusion, but let's start with the introduction. So, religion and conflict has been deeply intertwined throughout human history. I was reading an article about ancient Egypt, how people will actually go to war. And the main cause of that, some of these wars were directly linked to actually resources and tribal war. They want to keep their lane, they want to protect their lanes, they want to fight against the enemy so that they don't get actually attacked by others. Of course, it wasn't directly related to religion, but most of those tribes, they will actually call upon their gods to go fight the enemy. So religion can generate conflict because of deep differences in core values, what we usually refers to as the non-negotiable. It can be related to salvation matters or the afterlife. It can be even about the sacred books and claims of absolute truth. And these differences become more conflictual when a religious group or many religious groups seek to universalize or their truth. They want to actually impose them on other groups. In terms of research, although extensive research has been done to look at the link between religion and conflict, the following three areas still require further investigation. First, whether religion inherently legitimizes conflict remain debatable and require further exploration. Second, whether religion should be analyzed as an independent variable or one major variable that contribute to intractable conflict also remain open to discussion. And third, to what extent do faith leaders or those who call believers belief in identity and institutional affiliation serve as the determining factors of conflict. So we'll be talking about that in my presentation. So let's start with the definition of religion. So of course, religion, I mean, it's going to be hard to actually agree on one universal definition, but my perspective will be coming from experiential on and leaning toward psychology. And Frederick Schleiermacher in 1799 argued that religion is rooted primarily in feeling and intuition rather than reason alone. So try to actually focus on what the experiential part is all about, which is important, instead of focusing on the systematic aspect of religion. This view was later supported by Rodolf Otto, a professor of philosophy of religion at the University of Marburg. He's a German philosopher as well. And while maintaining that religion is rooted in feeling, he identified its object not as God, but as the divine experience. So actually, the object of study is not God himself, which remain in a realm of mystery, but the experience is something that can be actually measure and observe and analyze. So, confronted with the mystery of life and death, humans experience what he called the numinous, which Rudolf Otto defined as both energy and feeling. So Rudolf Otto said that this encounter with the mystery or otherness affect the soul in two distinct ways. The first one he called the Mysterium Augustum, which is the experience we have that with the wonder and love, infinite love, beauty, and majesty. And the second experience is called the Mysterium Tremendum, which is the mystery that evoke fear and trembling. So this encounter with the divine is universal and the foundation of all world religions, which later is structured into ritual and dogma. Similar, Jung defined religion as a state of consciousness transformed by the experience of the numinous. So religions later evolved into tradition that preserve the first experience, the numinous experience, through rituals, belief, dogma, while creating social bonds. So one example of that is actually Paul, who actually was converted in the road of Damascus, where he has an experience with Christ, calling him, so why are you persecuting me? That's the mysterium tremendous experience, which actually make Paul someone who became completely transformed and take over his mission and make a huge difference into Christianity. So religious denomination are codified and dogmatized expression of the original religious experience itself. So within them, the original experience is sanctified and often frozen into rigid and complex system of thought. The repetition of the primordial experience gradually evolved into what we call ritual, dogma, and institutional traditions. So the numinism is either the quality of the visible object, a visible object. That means the experience is something you can see, even though maybe some people might be near to you, but they might not see what you're seeing, but you're seeing something, and it's having an impact on the whole being. or it can be an influence of an invisible presence that will alter consciousness. So, and it can be also as a group. We know what we call the Pentecostal experience of early Christians who actually had that experience of the nimism, which actually became the starting point of Christianity. So, embracing Rudolf Alter's view of the Nimius, Jung favored the Roman etymology of religion, which is religere, which means to observe carefully over, what St. Augustine actually put forward, religare, to bind together. And in the 19th centuries as well, in the 19th century, German sociology Max Weber described this process as the routinization of the founder's charisma within institutional religion. Although religion fosters social cohesion and communal life, it is rooted primarily in the experience of the numinous. So, and another French philosopher, Henry Bergson, actually wrote a book, The Two Sources of Morality in Religion, actually distinguish dynamic religion, which is rooted in spiritual experience, and static religion, which is quite like the whole aspect of institutional traditions and ritual. So, institution and tradition seek to preserve actually this original sacred experience across generation. But unfortunately, sometimes that can lead to rigidity and even sometimes the decline of that institution. Yet in every era, great sages, mystics, saint, prophet emerge to rekindle that sacred fire of the foundational experience upon which the tradition was first born. So one example of the nemesis is Moses with the burning bush experience, where he was called by God, Moses, and Moses replied, "Here I am." This is a nemesis experience which become the starting point of Moses having that transformative experience and having the courage to go back to liberate his people. We also see that with when John the Baptist baptized actually Jesus, and have the numinous experience as well when the voice from heaven said, "This is my son, whom I love. With him I am well pleased," which is kind of a starting point of Jesus' missions as well. And also, we can see that with Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, when he was in the cave and had an experience with angel Jibril, who actually asked him to read. Other translation is recite, Iqra in Arabic, which became the foundation and the starting point of Islam tradition. And of course, Father Moon, Reverend Moon, also has an experience when he was 16 years old, which is a numinous experience, seeing Jesus Christ, asking him to talk over a mission, his mission. So, human history is filled with attempt to understand the world and its possible relationship to a creator or supreme being. So, effort to codify and institutionalize belief have produced diverse religious group and system worldwide. They become associated with social group, denominations, and in some cases integral to even nation state. We have Christian nations and Islamic nations and so on. Ken Wilber, who's a developmental psychologist, American, argued that most religion function to preserve identity and stabilize the ego. Through myth, ritual, doctrines, and communal beliefs, religion provides meaning, sense of belonging to a group, give hope to people about the afterlife, give security, and helping people even endure some type of suffering and coping even with uncertainty of life. This represents the conventional and institutional role of religion. However, Ken Wilber contrasts this with a rarely form of religion centered on authentic spiritual transformation. Rather than protecting the ego, unfortunately or fortunately, it will dismantle and transcend it. It will dismantle the ego and transcend it. And that experience aimed to not comfort people, but awaken them, leading to a radical transformation of consciousness and mode of being. And that experience make people new people, kind of change them, seeing life differently. And Jung will conclude that human beings are inherently religious. He used the term homo religiosus. So religion is deeply woven into the identity and the psyche of people. Jung referred to it as the self. You know. So by that experience, what is the link between that understanding of religion and conflict and violence? So conflict is a dynamic, unpredictable, and pervasive social phenomenon present in all human life, all human relationship, and global conflict arises from incompatible goals, interest, value system between state and other parties, organized group, international organizations. So, as a form of social interaction, conflict can be constructive or destructive or violent and non-violent, depending on who is involved in the conflict. Is that a transformed person or not? So, conflict resolution is essential for understanding the relationship between religion and conflict, particularly when it comes down to understanding the just war theory and pacifism. You know, um, Scott Appleby was kind of wrote a book. I mean, some of you might be familiar with the book, The Ambivalence of the Sacred. Support the idea that religion can inspire both violence and peace. So, noting that most religions contain tension between violence and its restraint or rejection. So, the foundation of just war theory was first systematized by St. Augustine in the 5th century. And Augustine actually agreed that war is tragic, but it can be morally justified under certain conditions, particularly to restore peace wherever there is violence, but also to protect the innocent, the vulnerable people, or to resist even evil. And later, Thomas Aquinas actually further formalized the theory in the 13th century by outlining criteria for the just war theory, which means legitimate authority. Who's actually asking us to go to war? Is it the Pope or a political leader, or is the cause a just cause? Is there any right intention? And there's question remaining about if that war objectively, can be defined as legitimate or just, depending on where you're siding. It can be debatable. And remember also in the 13th century what was going on, the Crusades. Duane L. Katie just also spoke about the just war theory and defined it as in two ways: the just ad bellum, which concern with the condition under which war is justified, and just in bello defines the moral limit governing the conduct in war. So Christian pacifists argue that just war theory compromises the core teaching of Jesus Christ by accommodating political agenda. Similar rebuke come from pacifists in other religious traditions as well. For example, in Islam, the just war theory is directly linked to preserving or defending the faith, which is referred to as lesser jihad. Um, and also in Judaism, it is often associated with protecting the homeland, which is actually a command from God. So institutional religion can at times become intertwined with political power, and ideological agenda, leading to the legitimization of violence or exclusionary nationalism. Right now in South Africa, there is actually extreme small group that is actually asking other African who are doing business in South Africa to leave the country because they believe that this is actually a problem for their own success. So these are really issues that are coming up, in even African nations as well. Historical and contemporary example all over the places with the crusade, jihadist extremism group, Hindu nationalism in India, certain movement within the Christian far right, and the religious dimension associated with 9/11 attacks. Samuel Huntington and James Turner Johnson argued that religious belief system shape personal and group identity, often contribute to hostility and conflict between culture on a local level, but also on an international level. So when institutions prioritize their own authority over the sacred message, which is rooted in experience, they often justify violence through selective interpretation of scripture. So pacifists are often criticized by realists for avoiding responsibility and failing to protect human life. Some realists consider pacifism not only imprudent, but even immoral, arguing that failing to resist harm can be as wrong as causing it. And pacifism should be morally condemned according to realists because in refusing to use force to prevent the ruin of some is allow the ruin of all. Most world religions contain the paradoxical notion that violence can be justified in the pursuit of peace. On the other hand, religion and faith leaders did promote conflict resolution, human rights, and positive social transformation across history. And this is evident in tractor diplomacy that happened in Northern Ireland with, the intervention of religious leaders in helping address the issue, the conflict there. And community of Saint Gideon, which is the Catholic community, helped actually heal the divide in the conflict in Mozambique and also in Ivory Coast in 2010 when there was also political conflict there. When Desmond Tutu in South Africa, who played a major role as a religious figure in the apartheid situation, and then Pope John Paul II in Eastern Europe, who actually challenged communism as a moral figure. It is therefore difficult to deny that this positive influence emerged directly from religious faith itself. So, still, the core question that we also ask is why religion is not always operating in this way. So, this helps us talk about religious leaders. At the level of actors, one can identify individual or group involved in religious conflict. So whether it can be religious or secular, individual or communal, sometimes religious conflict, some conflict are labeled religious mainly because religious figures are involved. For example, a religious group coming to support a political leader about a cause that sometimes is labeled religious. Even if that, conflict is not necessarily religious, but it can be labeled religious because religious figures are involved in supporting a cause. Likewise, it can be non-religious actors may use religious idea or rhetoric to advance their agenda. And political leaders, they do that a lot. They will actually use some religious rhetoric to actually advance their agenda. So my thesis is pretty simple. Religious leaders have a collective and moral responsibility to defend human life and avoid becoming instigators of conflict themselves. That means religious leaders themselves have to actually have that transformative experience, which make them peacemakers before even they can get involved with trying to address those issues. And Elmech argued that we must acknowledge religion's harmful element and seek its healing and reconciling potential. Religious institutions and faith leaders might confront this destructive element within their own faith. And to effectively promote peace building, human rights, and the common good, this requires addressing issues of objectivities. What I'm seeing, is it what is objective? Is it all my interpretation? And insularity, which is actually rooted into who we are against the other, which is like the whole notion of us versus them, and institutional power that is sometimes used to actually manipulate, control others, instead of empowering other people, and which is all tied to the claims of religious truth. Scott Appleby argued again that religious actors are most effective in peace building when they are seen as independent from political and institutional power. That means they are genuine, honest, and actually really seeking for peace for all. After September 11 attacks, religious leaders gained greater attention from political actors and international organizations. The United Nations resolution increasingly emphasized engaging faith leaders not only to counter extremism, but also to address conditions that foster that radicalization from the beginning within their own faith communities. For example, the United Nations Security Council Resolution 2178 in 2014 and the United Nations General Assembly Resolution 6288 in 2006 recognize the unique role of religious leaders in shaping religious interpretation and influence communities' life. And a 2002 United Nations report noted that religious leaders have a comparative advantage in conflict prevention, crisis management, and even reconciliation because of their deep roots in local communities, but also how they are seen by the global community. By using their moral influence, religious leaders can promote shared humanity and peaceful approaches to global conflict. And religious leadership not only views on violence, but also identity that strengthen resistance to violent mobilization. And these views are reflected in the FAIR's process, a UN action, a plan to prevent incitement to violence published by the UN Office on Genocide Prevention and the responsibility to protect the vulnerable in time of war. It is stated that religious leaders have strong influence over those who share their faith and belief. When religious leaders speak out, their message can have a broad and powerful impact. Their efforts include promoting interfaith dialogue, proper education, in human rights, social justice, and countering violence rhetoric. In summary, religious leaders possess a unique dual advantage not always shared by other community leaders like political leaders or business sectors. First, religious leaders can interpret violent religious texts within a broader framework that prioritizes peace. They can also highlight teaching on the universal dignity of human life while condemning violence and impunity in all its forms. Second, through ritual and communal life, religious leaders can model peaceful coexistence between state nation while maintaining regular contact with their own diverse communities. So this helped me get into one case study where a religious leader had played a major role. It's the conflict in Sudan. The conflict in Sudan has deep historical root involving political power struggle, ethnic division, economic inequality, and tension between Arabized North and the larger African and Christians enemies in the South. And Sudan experienced two long civil wars. The first one was in 1955 and ended in 72, and the second one started in 83 and ended in 2005. And in 2005, there was a peace agreement that actually resulted to the independence of South Sudan in 2011. So another major, unfortunately, conflict emerged in the Darfur area, which is the Darfur region, which is in the western side in 2003, involving accusation of ethnic cleansing and mass atrocities. And since 2003, Sudan has faced a devastating internal war between two forces present. Severe humanitarian crisis happened, mass displacement, famine risk, and the widespread destruction. The conflict reflects struggle over political control, military power, issue related to ethnic identity and resources. So it's hard to even point one element only. So in April 2019, Pope Francis became notably involved in effort to reconcile leaders in South Sudan. He invited South Sudanese political and religious leaders to act to a spiritual retreat at the Vatican, including President Salva Kiir and opposition leader Riek Machar. At the conclusion of the retreat, Pope Francis made a dramatic appeal for peace by kneeling and kissing the feet of the rival leaders, urging them not to return the country to civil war. The gesture became an international recognized symbol of the role religious leaders can play in promoting reconciliation, peace building, and the resolution of global conflict. Anyway, we're going to watch a short clip, which is like about 2 minutes of this experience.
Sorry to interrupt, but this is important. The shooter who murdered my sweet little Daniel.
Three. Avete firmato l'accordo di pace. And to the three of you who have signed the peace agreement, vi chiedo come fratello, I ask you as a brother, rimanete nella pace. Stay in peace, a process. Che finisca bene.
Dr. Kone, we're not seeing a video, at least I'm not. Is it to be a video or just an audio?
It's the video actually. You're not seeing it?
I'm not, but if others are, that's good.
Let me see. if I
I
can.
see the screen with the link,
Okay, all
but
right.
I started to hear the voices, but I did not see any
Oh, okay.
film going.
I thought the issue was solved. So, let me see if I can share directly from YouTube. Okay,
Yeah, that might be
much better, right?
better. Might sometimes it doesn't transfer to a PowerPoint,
Uh-huh. Okay,
but I'm not an expert. I don't know.
okay. So let me try that again. Okay, how about this?
Yeah, we're seeing Pope Francis,
Okay.
and you might want to start at the beginning. Yeah.
Can
3.
you hear?
Che avete firmato l'accordo di pace.
And to the three of you who have signed the
Can you hear
peace
now?
agreement,
Yes.
Okay, good.
Vi chiedo come fratello,
I ask you as a brother,
rimanete nella pace,
stay in peace. A process.
che finisca bene. Permettetemi.
Just let him, it's okay, let him.
Okay. As you can hear, the room was filled with emotions. And let me go back to my slide. Share here. Okay.
This being your life. Hey, did you hear? No, what? Oh, your brother's Pope. Can you imagine
All right. I
what
need
that
to.
would mean to you? What that would mean to your family? The Pope.
Okay. So I'm back to my slide. Okay, here, let me go back to current slide. Continue. All right. So the question, as you could see in that experience, how the room was filled with emotions. I think this is where actually transformation happen when people are moved, when their heart is touched, and something is happening beyond the rationalization of what is the truth or what is right. Well, when people are moved, something, and then the role of religious leader how to move the heart of people who are involved in conflict. So the question, so I will conclude here with this point. Research actually suggests that violence is rarely inherent to religion. In my reading, it's like about 7% only. But it's often tied to what we call the particular interpretation or special cosmic war narrative, how we actually identify evil into other group and how we project that understanding of evil of another group. And when we have the power, we want to actually eliminate them. And that can be, this is what we call a cosmic war narrative. And research suggests that rigid literal interpretation of scripture sometimes out of context, out of social, cultural context, out of historical context, and when we apply to contemporary issues, is likely to foster violence. And conversely, mystical and experiential form of religion often emphasize unity, love, and non-violence because people are deeply transformed within. Religious movement as well, or faith leaders that emphasize inward transformation, tend to be more peaceful, and those who focus on outward political domination are more likely to generate violence. And in that note, I will end here. Blessed are the peacemaker, for they shall be called the children of God. Amen, Amin, and Aju, and Salamu Alaikum.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kone. Excellent presentation, very thorough in taking us through the understanding of by many scholars of the nature of religion. But this topic is near and dear and deeply embedded in the history of HJI and the ministry of our founders, dating back to the early interfaith dialogues that took place in the late 1970s in Barrytown that gave fruit in the various organizations such as New Ecumenical Research Association, the Youth Seminar on World Religions, and Assembly of World Religions, up and through the time that is ongoing with Universal Peace Federation. So thank you for this presentation. I also note related to HJI that a number of years ago, an honorary doctorate was given to Dr. Douglas Johnston, who wrote a very significant book back in the 90s entitled Religion, the Missing Dimension of Statecraft. That was a real pathbreaker, and Jimmy Carter wrote the foreword to that book, and that was kind of something that in the post-Soviet era, there was kind of a move away from these two kind of, to some extent, both secular ideologies of Western liberal democracy, free markets, and communism. And many attribute a resurgence of religion to that period. Anyway, great topic. The video with Francis brought back many memories. If I'm not mistaken, I think that was Salva Kiir, president of South Sudan. And I recall visiting him with Dr. Taj Hamad not long after that foot washing. And this was the struggle between, the division between Sudan and the creation of South Sudan and the role of religion. So very, very critical and important topic. One thing, I'll ask a question as others start to formulate their comments and questions, and I'm sure there are many. And that is, sometimes we will try to identify causality between, say, religion and conflict, or politics and conflict. And to some extent, I see human beings as having these multiple identities or capacities, one of which is the spiritual and religious. One is the ethnicity, our national backgrounds, our cultural backgrounds, our unique family backgrounds, our unique personalities. And they aren't easily separated out from one from the other, and they're kind of a blending. So in many ways, I don't always associate conflict only with religion, and I know you're not saying that either.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah, but it's important also to kind of understand how these various factors are at play, and maybe the universal element might be selfishness or evil, as you say, that can dominate either our religious identity, our political identity, our national identity, our social identity, our cultural identity, our unique personality in unique ways. But religious certainly is among and one of the most powerful human, we could say, institutions, along with the nation state. So it does deserve the focus and treatment that you're giving it. So I thank
Yeah,
you for that.
research actually show that it's only about 6% religious factors in conflict. So it's pretty low. So that means other political, ethnicity, and cultural views, and most basically resources shares resources, and and then a big piece of that is actually human beings, and that's playing a major role into how things, evolve. And even, well, of course, understanding conflict is, understanding as, part of everyday's life. But, the way we resolve conflict can be violent or non-violent, can be, you know, peaceful or not peaceful, and that require also some type of inner transformation to actually look at the way the conflict is being addressed, and having also some competencies. Some people, you might have like some good intention, but if you don't have the competencies to actually you know even know how to dialogue, so chances that you might not even be able to resolve the conflict. So that's also one piece that I wanted to just put there.
Yeah, very good. I'm also reminded of the recent back and forth between Pope Leo the 14th and our president.
This is dramatic.
Perhaps some arguing a just war theory, like you were saying, and
Yeah.
another a little bit more pacifist in the orientation.
Yeah, and media doesn't always help, because media's looking for maybe igniting a little bit more, because they want people to just like take it to another level. But it will be even better to actually do a better, maybe a track two diplomacy approach, where the Pope meet the president. But now, that which came out, the whole argument around it was misinterpreted, and then finally, it became so hard to really even dialogue. And now Pakistan is, playing the mediator's role into the whole conflict. So,
Yeah.
mm.
Oh, very good. I see a comment here from our good friend Abdu Guy. He's applauding your presentation. Abdu, do you want to give your comment and maybe follow with a question?
Oh, yes, if you allow me to stay behind the camera. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we
Yes.
can hear you.
Okay. Yes, I'm going to read it. First, thank you, Dr. Kone. It was wonderful to be part of this. I'm in Senegal. It's very distant from you, but I can feel the spirit in that environment where you are. So here I wrote the final video, very emotional, as you said, is the crystallization of your presentation. It was like a God descending from the skies and kneeling down in front of humans for the sake of world peace.
Yeah.
The question is to know the impact of that dramatic gesture in face of today's reality of the conflict in Sudan.
Yeah.
If it does have a positive and measurable impact, which is the real question,
Mhm.
religious leaders should definitely see here the model course to
Yeah.
subjugate belligerents.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, it's a very good point. I think this is a model, and that model was not just set for Pope Francis. It's actually a calling to all religious leaders. This is how you help people. You help people ease their pain, because in the root of all this, people are hurting, and they are revengeful, and they're angry. They want to actually, destroy one another. So you need some type of deep humility which can touch their heart, their soul, so they can feel some type of transformation within themselves to actually finally move out of that mentality and then make peace. So it's a calling, it's a model for religious leaders, and it has to be modeled in places like where there is conflict, so that we can see progress toward peace.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dr.
Yeah,
Thank you, Abdugai, and give our regards to our friends there in
Sheikh Mansour.
Senegal.
So yeah, he's a
I
religious
will. I
leader,
will.
right?
Thank
Yeah.
you.
And I see a very good question here from our colleague here at HGA, Dr. Michael Mickler. Dr. Mickler, if you could unmute, and I think it'd be good if you just voice your comment and question.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Coney. Very impressive survey, very comprehensive. But the question that arises in my mind has to do with the interrelation between the prophetic role of religious leaders and the peace-building role of religious leaders. So in many or some instances, religious leaders are called to articulate positions that run against the status quo and powers that be, etc. And in one way or another, they take positions or they take sides in
Hmm.
a conflict and make a decision that this is wrong, this is right.
Yeah.
And so doing, they become advocates in one way or another for one side or the other.
Yeah.
So on the other hand, the peace building function seems to be requires even-handedness,
Hmm.
that you really empathize with and understand the situation and the realities of both sides.
Hmm.
You're not favoring one or the other. So I'm just wondering how those two roles and consciousness, function in religious traditions as you see it. Are they
Yeah.
conflict? How would you see that?
Yeah. For me, there's one determining factor. No matter if you are playing a prophetic role or you are in the what we call the transformative experience approach to conflict. For me, the main thing is, it's nonviolent. you know as long as it's not, as long as you can speak the truth from your perspective, of course, and you can be nonviolent about it. For me, that's a great thing. The great model for that, I think, is Martin Luther King Jr., who will get into he was very prophetic as well in his approach, but he was nonviolent. So, and in that case, that become, a component that actually support the other process. So, yeah, that would be my take on this.
What about another paragon of 20th century Christianity, Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who was a pacifist in his early career, but
Hmm.
and made the decision to relocate back from the United States to Nazi Germany and lead the confessing church, and eventually got involved with an assassination, somehow connected to an assassination attempt on Adolf Hitler's life.
Mm.
So his prophetic role or prophetic uh, view consciousness led him to do so.
Mm.
Would that be out of bounds since he took a
Well, I mean, for me, no matter who the person is, that's my stand. Even if the person is the worst evil guy in the world, it is not the role of other human being to take his life. He can be actually arrested. That makes sense. He can go through the whole judicial system, and then, you know, and then he get condemned, go to jail. That's better than just killing people. I think that's not the role of the religious leader. I mean, the state has its role. The state can do that, but not the role of the religious leaders. The really that there should be a clear separation between the way the religious leader address those issues of evil and bad people, and what the state should do about it. There should be a
Uh,
distinction.
kind of a distinction between more radical pacifism and something like a just or a justification for violence under certain circumstances, which arguably just war is. But Dr. Andrew Wilson has a comment
Mhm.
on the just war topic that you brought up. Thank you, Dr. Mickler. Dr. Wilson, you want to just voice your comment question?
Yeah, you did talk a little about just war, and I taught a course on peace building where I spoke about just war. But
Mhm.
when I see these advocates, religious leaders, they're not really talking about just war. They're talking about the heart. They're talking about, stepping back from war.
Mhm.
But just war is sometimes not necessarily about stepping back from war entirely. It's about moderating the way one conducts war, not to,
Mhm.
carpet bomb Gaza
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
something like that.
Yeah.
And it provides a more objective basis, not taking sides,
Yeah.
based on the idea that these nations have to live together eventually.
Yeah.
After the war is over, they need to have some kind of reconciliation. I mean, this all began in Greece and in the Hellenistic period with in Athens and places like that. So I would like to know whether there are any good examples of religious leaders in our day and age who are really advocating just war and trying to guide political leaders or other or groups to adopt a just war standard in
Yeah.
terms of their behavior.
Yeah. I mean, history shows that, war has always been tragic with so many, um, how you call it, I mean, you go to war, I mean, even if it's just, morally just, the consequences are sometimes too dramatic. My sense is most religious leaders are looking back into history and backing up a little bit about even encouraging some type of war. So, of course, political leaders they always have their point, their agenda. But my sense is the reason why some even leaders like Pope Leo will speak against war these days might be rooted into the past experiences and seeing the tragic and the consequences of war. And it doesn't necessarily mean if a nation is attacked, it shouldn't defend itself. That's different. I still agree that if a nation is attacked, it has to defend itself. It has to defend the vulnerable population. It has to defend the women who are, probably can't go to war. But if everybody is promoting peace, I guess no one is going to go in and attack the other one. One way is to dialogue, you know, and if war started for whatever reason, is to actually encourage for a ceasefire and actually not just official diplomatic talk should be going on, but also religious leaders who are doing type two diplomacy should get involved. And I think even the UN should get even more involved with this kind of political war, because that's also their role. The UN was created to bring peace, and then all this effort could actually help with not getting into dramatic situation. So I'm not seeing many, I mean, on top of my mind. It might be possible.
I don't see it. I don't see it
Yeah,
much either.
yeah.
I'm not sure how relevant just war is anymore.
Yep.
One good place where it could have happened would have been after 9/11,
Yeah.
if American churches had encouraged our government, George W., to
Yeah.
adopt a more proportionate response rather than going in and invading Iraq.
Yeah.
Um, but apparently, you don't hear much about that.
Yeah.
There
And
was
yeah,
many cries for vengeance and a lot of posturing on the part
yeah,
of religious leaders.
yeah, and that's for me, that's a good sign. That's a good sign, and because we should have the religious leaders should be the moral conscience of whatever is going on in the world, and refrain from political agendas and whatever is happening with political leaders trying to push forward for their ideology, so and interest and resources, so that's a clear distinction that needs to be made there. um yeah.
Dr. Coney, we got a couple of more questions I'd like to move to.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Very good discussion there. Uh, and let's see. I wanted to get to Hans Moyer. Hans, why don't you state your question, and then the last question will be from Bruce Clark.
Mhm.
So
Yes,
keep
hi,
your
good
question
evening.
not too long, and Dr. Coney, not too long an answer.
Okay,
Okay.
sure.
Dr. Coney, I don't know if you saw the article that Dr. David Carlson is writing on the Family Fed website. I just was reading it myself before this program, so it's
Mhm.
fresh in my mind. But
Okay.
in the article, and which he hasn't concluded yet, it's a series of articles that he's writing, and he's looking historically, but also at the present situation.
Okay.
And he's identifying a spiritual force
Hmm.
as being the ultimate protagonist to any
Hmm.
and all conflict on all levels.
Yeah.
So I guess the question in my mind is, how do we deal with that force?
Yeah.
Because, you can posture, you can, touch people's emotions, but you
Yeah.
also have to eliminate
Hmm.
the evil.
Yeah.
So how do we
Yeah,
address that?
yeah, I know that's a tough one, basically. But however, the real battle of spiritual forces, the real battle is beyond us. That's my understanding. As long as human beings, we actually stay connected to the root of goodness, which is not always simple. And that's why in my presentation, when I was begin defining what religion is, I'm looking at the experiential aspect of it. How do you get connected to, how do you have that transformative experience? And when that transformative experience is there, then you are not used by evil forces. Or even when you face evil forces, you might be able to transform those forces. Or it might happen, it might be tragic, you might lose your life. However, good people in history who lose their lives because they were good people trying to transform evil have, at the end, their model will be actually helpful for the future, which is what we have seen with, Jesus, on the cross, and good people, unfortunately life has, been taken because they were good people trying to actually change things. But eventually, this God can use that. That's my interpretation now. God can use that as a foundation to move things forward. That's my interpretation. So certainly when evil is attacking and coming after one person or a group of person, if we can still stay good in that process, God used that as a foundation to move forward. That's my interpretation. Now, if we get into evil, then we become two evil fighting each other. So then it can get really dramatic. Somebody has to stay in what our paradigm, the Abel side and Cain, perspective. That will be my interpretation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Uh, Bruce Clark, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Kone. What I heard in your presentation was the dual nature of religion. You talking about the transformative side of it and the stabilizing side of it. And
Mhm.
I think for many of us here, we might think, well, the transformative side is the side I want to be on, not the stabilizing side, because that seems stagnant and static, as you said.
Yeah.
So, yet here's the core of what I'm asking. The transformative spiritual experience is chaotic.
Mm-hmm.
It can actually be somewhat personally violent, even metaphorically.
Yeah.
The lesser jihad, in a way, if you
Yeah.
will. And in Paul's
Oh, a
experience,
greater jihad, please. Mm.
I'm sorry, greater jihad.
Yeah.
And like Paul was thrown down, lost his sight. I
Yeah.
mean, that was wild. Therefore, do religions sometimes use just war theory out of a belief that it will lead to a spiritually justified transformation
Mhm.
of the nation or the world? And is this a realistic and honest view, or is this just another dangerous way religions promote?
Yeah, I mean, we don't really know. I mean, how do you know? It's a risk, okay? It's a risk taking, but so, the most important thing here is how do we encourage the transformative experience part of it, not individually, but also collectively. Because for collective organization, it can even create a revival for that organization. But if it's put on the side, we say, oh yeah, the founder has his experience, and then okay, let's move on with status quo and just do the rigidity, the tradition, the ritual, keep going. The danger of that is, you know, the transformative part is not there, and it can actually die out in, with and then it can get him into division within even, because I mean, some groups gonna also say maybe the way that you put the candle is not right. Now I want to put the candle this way, and then it can get into a conflict, and then there will be a division within. But when people are transformed, they actually, they prioritize relationship, and forgiveness and love and unity, and that has a, better impact in solidifying the community and beyond. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question, Bruce, and everyone who participated. Dr. Coney, great job, and not only with the presentation, but good in the conversation we're having. Any final word you want to leave us with before we draw to a close?
Yeah. Oh, I just want to share my personal experience. I mean, growing up Muslim, I was, never thought I will even just get involved with anything related to Christianity or other faith. But my experience was a numinous experience, which actually led me to actually be more open to explore the possibility of other faith traditions as well. And I think we have to actually encourage our unification movement, the second generation, third generation, create an environment, possibilities, and create a situation where they can have a direct experience with the divine. I think this is so important, and I think many first generation unification movement actually came and got involved with this movement because of the experience they had, the divine experience they have, that transformative experience they have, that have to keep going. And my final word is thank you to everyone for listening. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be able to share this word.
Well, thank you, Dr. Coney. Just in conclusion, once again, we have our graduation on May 23rd. If you're in or near New York, please join us for that important occasion, the 50th commencement ceremony, where we will also confer the honorary doctorate on Katrina Lantos Sweat, a major figure in promoting religious freedom across the world. And now there's the flyer for that. Also, our course offerings for the summer and the fall are now available online. And I think Dean Boyd is posting them in our chat column. We have many wonderful courses. You've heard from Dr. Coney tonight. You've heard from Dr. Mickler with good commentary, along with Dr. Wilson and Bruce Clark, who will soon be Dr. Bruce Clark in another couple of weeks or less, is also going to be teaching in this academic year. So there's a lot of rich content being shared and discussed that is extremely important and as stimulating as it is important. So I encourage you to look into our course offerings, and I hope to see you not only on the webinar, but many of you consider taking a course with us and reaching out to Dean Stephen Boyd. He has put his contact information in the chat column as well. So let's put everybody now on, can unmute, and we can be in gallery mode and just say hello to one another for about 60 seconds. You can express your appreciation to Dr. Kone. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kone.
Thank you.
Erudite presentation.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Tofal, good to see you here. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kone.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you, Dr.
Kone.
Kone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Taiko, good to see you.
Dr. Kone, thank you.
Thank you very much, Imam Hassan. Good to see you. Hi, Mark. See you.
Hey, Dr. Selig, and thank you, Hans.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Good
Dr.
to see you,
Kone.
Jim Edgerly. Welcome back to the US of A.
Yes, just barely. I got
Hello,
back.
Uri. Nice to see you.
Hello.
Thank you, Dr. Kone.
Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Wakizi, Frederick Wakizi from Kenya.
Thank you.
Oh, Juras, good to see you.
Yeah, excellent presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dr.
Very
Lajda.
inspiring.
Are you still in Korea or you went back home?
No, I'm Czech Republic now.
Oh, okay, great.
Hi, Tycho. Please send a nice prayer up to your husband in the
Yes,
spirit
I
world.
will. I will report.
We love him.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we miss him.
Yes, we do. We
Hello,
do.
Joy. I see you on Instagram all the time.
Oh,
You're,
Joy Garrett. Yeah.
Joe Garrett.
politicking over there in Arizona, wherever you are. It's
We
exciting.
need a headwing
Mexico.
world.
Abdu, we see your face. All right.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, you can see me.
yeah.
Okay.
How do?
Yeah.
Good to
Good to
see
see
you,
you.
man. Yeah, good to
Thank
see
you.
Hi,
Mm.
Bruna.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Okay. God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank
Night.
you.
Thank
Good night,
you.
everyone.
Everyone.